You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. My name is Clark, and you can find me on Instagram at 5cardguys, as well as on 5cardguys.com. Co-hosting with me, as usual, is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards, and John, who is back, and he is Trade You at Recess on IG. Before we get into it, just a quick shout out to Mailman Matt. We just saw your Apple Podcast review, and we're so glad that you think we are a must-listen every episode. That's awesome. We appreciate the positive feedback and all the nice reviews we've been getting lately, so thank you very much. All right, off the top, for episode 131, guys, I wanted to get your quick thoughts on a couple of baseball players and their impact on the hobby, all right? First, Wander Franco. As of this recording, he is batting .298 with 6 homers, 7 stolen bases, and he's tied for second, or he's third now, I think, in WAR with 1.8. I know it's early in the season, but he is in the top 3. Plus, defensively, I'm not sure if you saw the clip where he picked up a routine grounder, flipped the ball to himself before throwing out Brian Reynolds at first. You know, this guy is playing with full confidence right now, obviously. So, do you think there's a play here with Wander?
John, you could attack this first.
Yeah. I think it's better to get my
since
opinion.
Since it's your welcome back. It's your welcome back.
It's better to get my opinion before the pro starts talking. So
no. There's no input here for me, but
oh man, it's good to be back. First of all, it's been a while. I've been getting some FOMO with all the good guests that you guys have had on. Sad to have missed it, but anyways, Wander Franco, man, that I saw the play. Is pretty cocky. Like, I don't think anyone would even do that in like men's beer league. It's pretty crazy, let alone like the majors.
It happens.
Yeah. On one sense, maybe it rubs people the wrong way, but at the same time, it shows how comfortable and confident he is becoming in the majors. Like, this is, you know, if it looks like it's a joke to them, maybe that's a good thing, because that's what you kind of want to see out of players, right? So, I think long term, there's no question to me, Franco. I mean, the hype on him, from what I know and from what Hyung's told me and from everything that you hear, it's an absolute can't miss prospect. He seems like the type of player, maybe doesn't get into like home run derby type of conversation. He's got decent power, but maybe not consistent enough to be somebody who jacks like 40, 50 bombs. But I could see him being like the next, maybe this is really high praise, but like the next like Suzuki, Ichiro kind of player, a guy that's tough to strike out, you know, puts the bat on the ball every time.
Right.
So I think long term, if you can get into Franco at some point now, next year, I think his card still has a little bit to simmer off a little bit more, but there is going to be a time where you can get into him and lock it up long term if you are the type to believe in him, because the hobby right now is just like hype. I think it's become very high. If you're starting to notice trends and prices, it's becoming very hyper focused. Like people, like investors and whoever's been in it, are starting to kind of take their money out of base and silvers and, you know, starting to put it into numbered or like really, really rare cards. And on top of that, very select players within each segment of sport, right? And in baseball, it's seemingly anybody who hits is a part of like the home run race is like what you kind of go after, right? It's Aaron Judge, it's Shohei Ohtani, it's Vladdy Guerrero. And then, you know, there's the traditional Acuñas and Tatises. And then, you know, there's, after that, there's nothing else. Like, it doesn't look like everyone's kind of bailing on every other player. So I think Franco, it's a little tricky because in the short run, because he's not a part of this sort of focusing on home runs, I would say, yeah, I don't think for somebody picking up Franco, I don't think it's necessarily like a short-term play, like a short-term flip within 1 year. There's going to be some crazy hype. I don't really see that. But if you see Franco as a big-time long-term player, which I think you should have pretty good confidence, I feel pretty confident about Franco as a long-term. Yeah, definitely pick and choose your spot in the next 12 to 24 months. 24 months, I think it's going to be a great time to pick up a Franco.
Okay, interesting. Hyung.
You know what I think? I think it's tough. Franco's a tough buy right now just because timing, and there is a lot of hype around him right now, and he's balling out like expected. But you guys got to remember, we came into the hobby right when Franco kind of was blowing up in
Right.
Bowman Chrome. So I think there's a lot of hype, right? But like John said, he's a flashy player. People like him. The purists, again, they might disagree with it. But I will say regarding that play, as baseball people, you don't mess with the baseball gods. You know what I mean? It's like, that's kind of messing with the baseball gods, and it will come and bite you in the rear end. It's just the way it happens. So there is that element of, I'm all for, even pimping home runs now, like, bat flips, celebrations, emotions.
Right.
Like it's exciting, right? And, different cultures play the game differently, and that's something that I've always respected about baseball. So I don't necessarily mind it, but I know a lot of the baseball purists, they're like, absolutely
Right.
not. This is disrespecting the game from a fundamental, perspective and stuff like that. But regardless, to each their own in that regards. I don't mind it. But in terms of his card prices, I just think they're a little overpriced to begin with. And I think part of that, we're still, it's almost like a bear market rally with Wander cards. And I believe in his talent. Don't get me wrong. I've always believed in his talent. And then we discussed on this pod always, it's like, okay, he has an all-star season this year. He's, probably going to, be, a candidate for MVP if he keeps on playing this way. But, is he a 30 home run plus guy? Is he a guy that, even if he does it, look at the comparables to guys like, not saying Rafael Devers is exactly like Wander Franco, but, someone who's, proven over and over again, just like Wander has, in his earlier career, but, guys like Devers have already done that and they get no love too, right? So for me, it's a big sideways game for Wander. However, I believe because a lot of die down has happened, I think there are buying opportunities still on certain cards. And that's the thing. Like, it's never is Wander a buy or not, or is he worthy of, being a buy? I don't think anybody, kind of like, disagrees that he's really talented. He's an all-star. He's a superstar type caliber player. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. I think there are strategic buys though around it. I think some cards are really overpriced in Wander, just like, guys like Tatis and Acuna and Ohtani, right? There are, it becomes a supply demand thing at that point, right? Because, some cards are actually, desired just more than, another card, and it's the same player, right? So, yeah, for me, Wander's a hard one to buy into right now. Especially, you're starting to see, some rally in a bear market, but I think there's a lot of, I don't mind long-term if it's a card and you're a fan of, Wander, and you're, looking long-term and saying, you know what, I believe in his talent long-term, and I want to lock up a card at a reasonable price in case he does, blow up or, becomes an MVP one day. But, until then, I think what we've noticed in baseball is the longevity of it. You see guys like Mookie Betts, you see guys even like Bo Bichette on a younger side of things, they get no hobby love still, and they're, dominating their game, as much as possible. And, Wander might be the guy that, gets the love like Acuna and J-Rod, but I just don't see the 30 plus home runs that really drive kind of like, the hobby love for guys like Tatis and Sotos and Acuna's, right? So, but yeah. I'm a believer. I'm a believer in Wander. I think he's going to have a great career, but yeah, I don't know about his prices too much though.
Yeah, no, it's a good point because it's one thing to like the player and just, himself, and
Right.
then it's another thing to like his
It's a
baseball
good,
cards
yeah.
for their value, right? So, um, I'm on the same page. I think there's limited upside just because his prices are still a little too high for my liking for what he's accomplished in his career, right?
Yeah,
So,
right.
for the long term, he's got to keep this up consistently. And baseball, anything happen from year to year. I like the power speed combo that intrigues me, but at the same time, Ronald Acuna seems to be the better version of that, right?
Right.
So I feel like as long as Acuna is playing the way he's playing, who's also mashing and doing really well, Wander's kind of in his shadow.
He did, sorry, just to mention, just earlier today, Acuna took a foul ball off the knee. So hopefully it's not bad news. He went down pretty good. He had to exit the game. So, but
right,
just throwing that on side because Acuna always gets hurt. Why?
Well, scratch what I just said. I'm all in on Wander. No, that's disappointing.
Didn't
Hopefully
he got hit by a
hopefully
pitch
he's
pretty
okay.
tough a couple of games ago too.
Yeah.
Right
It's been he's a magnet.
Oh,
he's a magnet. Yeah.
But anyway, so Wander limited upside, but if it dips for whatever reason, there might be I feel like there might be a short-term play. If it dips and he's the one that has a full complete season, puts a 30 home run season, 30-40 stolen base, like even a 30-30 season, I think there's short opportunity to make a good flip.
I have a question for you, Clark. You say short opportunity. Are you talking Bowman Chrome or flagship like Topps Chrome? I know your answer. Yeah, it's probably Bowman Chrome, right?
I always talk Bowman Chrome,
right?
Or I always think about Bowman Chrome when I make these comparisons. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I'm just putting it out there because sometimes you see like Bowman Chromes are super overpriced, and then a Topps Chrome might be super underpriced, right? So there might be buying opportunities there. But I know like you like to play in that Bowman game. I don't mind going back and forth because I personally like rookie cards, right? Mm-hmm. But I am liking the longevity too as well with the Bowman Chrome game because Bowman Chrome always is the first to kind of go up if it does, right? So
right,
for sure. And I don't mind the Topps Chrome play when the Bowman Chrome autograph rookie cards are just at a really high price.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right,
so then
right.
Topps Chrome becomes more of a play for the hobby, like because there's so many more people that might be able to afford the Topps Chrome instead of the Bowman Chrome.
Right.
Yeah. Like Shohei, for example, I invested in it. We talked with Daryl. I bought the Topps Chrome because I didn't want to spend thousands of dollars for the Bowman
upcharge,
Chrome
right?
First auto, right? So but Wander's not. I don't think he's there yet. Bowman Chrome's expensive for what he's done in his career, but still, like last time I checked, I'm looking at Card Ladder. It's under $1,300 for a PSA 10 base auto.
Yeah,
considering so it's 3,000-4,000.
Yeah, it was
a couple
crazy.
Years ago.
Yeah,
during the hype. So yeah, we'll see how Wander plays. It's funny you mentioned the baseball gods. When it comes to baseball, for me, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in baseball gods. And you know what? You know what the proof of that was? When he did that flip, and then his next at bat 5 minutes later just hit a bomb. Right?
Baseball's a long game, man. Baseball's a long game. Just you wait and see.
I might eat my words. It's true. But for me, when I saw that, I'm like, I couldn't believe it. Like, imagine Reynolds was safe. How angry the coach would be. Like, he would never do that again.
Oh yeah,
You know what
I would lose my noodle. Like literally, like that's something that like like you cannot. You do that stuff and you don't. Yeah. It's. But I get it. It's like you're in the Roman circus, right? You're
Right.
you're like twirling your sword before you execute. So it's kind of like one of those things.
For
if you're
hockey comparisons,
go ahead,
if you guys remember that kid Linus Omark that was on Edmonton. There was so much hype coming when he was in Sweden, and then he comes to the Oilers, gets a penalty shot, and proceeds to do a spinorama before going on the goalie. Like nonsense, like completely.
Yeah.
There's no reason
we call
to
it eye wash.
Yeah, I mean it's a good comparison. Like if you're a coach or if you're a player, you hate it, but if you're a fan, you love it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, All right. Quickly, I didn't think we were going to talk that long about Wander Franco, but I also wanted to touch upon Fernando Tatis Jr. I think this is the first time we've been able to talk about him since he came back from suspension, just because we had all those interviews in the previous episodes. So yeah, your thoughts on Fernando Tatis this early in his return?
I could go, I guess, since I'm a Fernando Tatis collector.
I want to hear. Yeah, I want to hear what Hyung thinks.
For me, nothing changes, right? I'm excited that he's back. It just makes the Padres that much better. It's exciting for baseball, and you know what? He's what I've noticed about Tatis. He's such a volatile player. When he's hot, he's unstoppable. But then he would go and he would absolutely look so bad sometimes. But it is the beginning of the season still, and he's holding his own. His numbers aren't out of whack, but I think there's a lot of pressure on him to perform. Now the pressure's on because you're gonna have the naysayers saying, you know what, if he doesn't produce the 42 home runs that he hit pre-PED suspension,
Right.
then it looks bad on him in general, right? People are gonna, use that as kind of against him, right? So I think he has a lot to lose. So I think, like I said, I'm a Tatis collector, so it doesn't matter. For me, I'm rooting for the guy because I believe in his talent. I love collecting his rookie cards because when I came into the game, he was one of the bigger chases too. Actually not as big, but I invested in him heavily, and he's done well with me. And I've sold some Tatis really early on in his early rookie career. And I've done well, but at the same time, I've also let some big cards go that I kind of regret. So yeah, I'm just a fan of him, regardless. I appreciate his athleticism and the skill set he brings. It's rare that you see a type of player like him. And, for me, it's more of a long term anyways. I know that he's going to perform, right? But I do believe his prices are definitely inflated for, what it is right now. But if he does keep his kind of talent the way he's been playing pre-suspension, I think his cards are still going to maintain strong value because he's that much impactful in the baseball world.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I still believe, and I've always thought that Tatis is the new Griffey of our generation, the guy with the swag everybody likes, brings that excitement, the cool factor. And he does obviously have a little bit of a stain on that reputation now. But for those that did think like myself, that were a big fan of Tatis, that did think he was the new Griffey, I don't think for those people, their opinions would change at all. They were obviously, like most people, I think, were pretty disappointed, but they're still on Tatis' side. And then there's investors that invested in Tatis, maybe not necessarily liked him, just thought he's the big name, he's the big chase, and then supremely disappointed because of the news, and then they lose 80% of their value in their cards, and they just bail and say F Tatis, that guy's a loser, and then there are those as well, right? So I think for me, hitting 40 bombs, returning to, in terms of numbers and performance, I see it. I think he's going to be totally fine. Again, I think we mentioned this before. It's going to be an interesting case study for Tatis because he's one of those where the PED suspension was right at the beginning of his career. So everybody, for those that like Barry Bonds, that it was towards the end of their career. Now your entire career is in question. Okay, the 70 bombs, the 62 bombs, the 59 bombs. What was that? Was that PEDs? We don't know now. There's a huge question mark. But I think Tatis, he has a chance to rebound from all of that. The only silver lining is long term. I think a lot of people can, and you can pretty much, if Bonds is not going to make the Hall of Fame, then you could bet your ass Tatis not making the Hall of Fame. So long term, it's definitely a bit of a sore on his career. But I think within the next, if you're an investor or if you're a fan, I think anywhere from the next 3 to 5 years, I think you're still going to enjoy the ride. I'm all for Tatis, and he's playing well. Like he hasn't seen major league fastballs and major league pitches in like 2.5 years or whatever it's been, and I think he's playing pretty darn good.
Yeah, he's all things considering, for sure. I'm kind of in terms of long term, I'm almost the opposite. I'm pretty confident that Barry Bonds will get into the Hall. It might be a decade from now or later.
I hope so.
So if that's the case, then then that's good news for Tatis in a way. Right. But for me, I think it's what Hyung mentioned. Like, you just have to be patient with Tatis at this point. Like, nothing changes. Although I have a Topps Chrome base auto and I have a Bowman Chrome base auto, and I kind of, want to hedge. So I'm trying to sell one of them, because
sell the Topps Chrome,
which is what I'm trying to do. So
keep the Bowman Chrome. I think that's the card. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll take a loss if I need to for the Topps Chrome and then reinvest into something else. But I like the Bowman Chrome still. But still, Tatis, it's interesting because when I got back into the hobby, I remember you guys were like, "Oh, Tatis, yeah." Like, I wasn't a Tatis guy. Like, I'm like, he's gets injured a lot, and then you guys like made me FOMO. So I have a Topps Chrome and Bowman Chrome auto now, and I'm like, why did I FOMO into this? I have those days. Where I'm like, why do I have these cards? But no, you're absolutely right though, Hyung. He's very streaky. Like, I had him on my fantasy team. You can't time it. You guys just got to ride him out through the whole season. Because you never know when he's going to go on a 10-game hot tier. Yeah.
And when he goes off, it's just like unreal.
And then when he's in the slump, he's 0 for 25.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
we're kind of seeing it right now.
Yeah. So you got to just, he's that kind of player. And you just got to trust that that's just how he plays. Once he gets on a roll, that's where you look to capitalize. So, all right, we'll see. It's still early. He's not even played a full month yet, I don't believe. So we hope that Tatis does well this season. All right, let's move on to our regular weekly segment we call Hobby Headlines. So there's a controversial video going around on TikTok, and it's by former NFL player Evan Mathis, who put up a video tutorial on how to trim vintage sports cards. Now, card alterations, of course, have a negative stigma in the hobby, which is what made this video so weird to me, because the video wasn't really made to be controversial or to solicit hobby outrage. It just seemed to be a simple how-to video, right? And so yeah, the question is then, for me, after watching it, did it suddenly become okay to trim vintage cards now that this video's out there? Or do you think this video might encourage some collectors to trim their cards now that they know how to do it and potentially sell it altered without disclosing that info?
First off, I'll say this. We mentioned this earlier on a pod. Like, this has been going on for a while. COVID, this has been an issue, and the big players in the game involved are, auction houses like PWCC and, Probstein and, other places like that. So it's nothing new in the hobby world. I think me personally, when I seen that, my mind was blown. But what it has done is it has shed light, and I think that's the most important thing is, people need to be informed about this because, one, I think if you're trimming cards and selling it, I think okay, we need to take a pause right here because I don't think anybody in their right mind can agree that that's right in any single way. And it's not even Evan Mathis. We're like, there are culprits in this hobby that are, that have been doing this long. And this all existed even in the 80s and 90s. We just are, more prone to the information now because it's shed light. But you go on blowout forums and you'll see, there's a thread probably, 1700, posts long, talking about this ever since, who knows when. And there's detectives out there.
Oh yeah.
Literally detectives out there. And I'll even give a shout out to tiffanycards.com. They actually have a database of, known trimmed cards. So, This is something that I think every hobbyist or every collector, investor needs to educate themselves on and understand. There are, some bad apples in my opinion in the hobby, and there's malpractices that have been happening. And, at one point even FBI was involved. But the status from what I've heard was it's now inactive. But like, to me, I'm perplexed that, it's like, this is totally illegal, man. This is like, what is going on? Like, how could he post that, right? Unless, he's Leonardo DiCaprio from Catch Me If You Can, kind of like working to expose that, right? But for me, it's just mind blowing that, we're seeing that, like that TikTok video. I watched the whole thing and I'm just, wow, this is incredible. This can't be good. But in the end, it's good in the sense that people need to be aware of this and do their due diligence, because there are some vintage cards that are in PSA slabs and Beckett slabs and even in SGC slabs that have been altered. So it's like, yes, it does matter because you might be buying one of those. Right. True. And one time I'll just end it at this, I once purchased Tiger Woods Sports Illustrated. I think I mentioned this, 1996 Sports Illustrated for kids. It was PSA 9. And, the perforated edges on that card is like a big, a big thing. And this one kind of didn't have those perforated edges. And I was talking to one of my hobby buddies about it, and he was saying, hey, that's a known trimmed card. It's an actual known trimmed card. So that's what stopped me from buying it. Cause the question was, and this was pre-COVID, right? So the question was, if I do sell this one day, will that be an issue? Knowing that, it is a trim card, would I buy it? And I actually didn't buy it. And I'm glad I kind of didn't buy it, because it becomes that, okay, do I want to sell this now that I know that I have a altered card, right? So, yeah.
No, it's good.
The blood is on your hands at that point. Didn't Evan Mathis, who is a card porner, Lameme James, that first sort of exposed this to the masses? I remember their description was like he outed himself. So apparently he already sort of had some kind of reputation that he's been doing this, and people suspected some of his graded cards were like this, and then now he's showing the world how he does it, which seemed very, very odd if that's true.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I am very against altering cards in that way, like trimming. It really shouldn't exist. And if you happen to have a tough conditions card, so be it. That's fine. A PSA 6 or a 7 or an 8, especially in the vintage world. But I mean, if you did alter it, some people might. Maybe some people don't like the rounded, soft looking corners. And I don't care if I take a loss in value. I don't know who would ever want to think this. I want to chop it up to make it look cleaner, and it's for my own sake or whatever. I don't know. But I think the main thing
a lot of PC people do it.
Yeah, I know.
I don't mind that.
I don't mind that. And even if you were to alter it, as long as I think the word is disclose. You disclose it to PSA or whoever you're grading it with.
Right.
And it comes back altered. Kind of like extreme example is that Mickey Mantle, that SEC grader, where some kid or whatever, like you cut around Mantle's head completely.
Right.
Because it's fine to say that it's authentic and it's completely altered. That I think that's fine. So, it really, it shouldn't exist, but if it has to happen, disclosing it is the big thing. Because other than that, sure. I mean, it should be deemed illegal. I don't know how you would technically police this, right? Like, let's say somebody sent in a 52 Mantle, like raw altered. That's probably a 10K card on its own. And how are you going to police that? Like, let's say PSA is like, oh, this is fraud. Like they didn't disclose that it was altered. And what, does PSA not return it to them because now it can continue to go into circulation to somebody else? Do they?
That's the thing. There's so many out there already.
Yeah. Like, how do you do that?
What do you do?
Do they keep it, but then they got to kind of pay him out? Like, I don't know how you do that, right? So
yeah,
it's messy.
Yeah.
Everything's just to be clear, everything's alleged with this Evan Mathis guy, and
Right.
we don't know what he's been involved with, but just by the fact that he's showing how to do it was a little bit odd. And I'm with you guys. If it's for your PC, that's fine. You like the cleaner look by cutting off the edges. I don't have any problem with that. But I think the issue is the temptation, or if you happen to want to sell it later, the price difference. Like there's that temptation to like, oh, maybe I'm not going to disclose it. To your point, John, disclosure is the key word here, right? And then, you kind of sell it off as if it wasn't altered, then that's obviously a problem, right? So, with the cards now, with the grading, I would hope that, the PSAs and the BGS and the SGCs would be able to, better know if a card's been altered, just by measuring the card itself, right? I think they're hopefully have done a better job trying to figure out which ones have been or have not been altered. And but the flip side is, like, I would never buy a raw vintage card. If it looks and it's the old rule, right, that applies here, that if it looks too good to be true for the price, then it probably is. Like, it's like, why is this half the price?
What happens to those slabs, or the people that have the slabs that have been known to be trimmed? What happens, to those cards, right? And that's what I'm saying is, like, what if your card, let's just say you had a vintage card in your collection, and then you look it up and it's like in that database of known altered cards that is actually has a grade assigned by PSA or Beckett or SGC, right? So I think another thing to mention is, I don't think the grading companies are so innocent in at the end of the day too. I think they're the culprits as well, and that's important to mention because they're grading these cards. Known trimmed cards, and the rabbit hole gets deep and deep, and obviously do your own research and kind of see what's going on in that world. But that's the only question I have.
No, that's a legitimate question. Realistically, you're probably screwed. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just the way the system is set up, you gotta. I guess you're like, oh, I guess this is for my PC now because I can't sell it anywhere. But more optimistically, you would hope that, because it's hard to trace like who actually did the altering when you bought it, and you can't possibly trace how far back it goes. Right. So like optimistically, you would hope that the grading companies would have something in place where they would compensate the collector 100%. If they found out this is a known trimming card. That's probably the one I prefer to see happen, right? But does PSA Beckett, as you see, do they want to do that? Of course not, right? It's money out of their pocket.
No, for sure. Yeah.
But to build more confidence in their company, like, I feel like if I was running the company, it's easier for me to say because it's not my money. But if I own PSA or BGS, or if I was the CEO, I'd be like, yeah, let's do this, and then maybe you get bonus points from collectors, right? And and that might be a good business move in the end. Yeah, just my opinion.
100%. But optimistically, that is 100% the way to get these trimmed cards that have been slabbed out of circulation. Is to, I mean, legally, I'm sure there's no guarantees that PSA or Beckett or ever displayed when you're submitting cards. But that's their reputation on the line. They're supposed to be the professionals in this, and for them to grade and say that it's authentic, and then also say on top of that it's a PSA 10 or a BGS 9 or whatever it is, they should be held accountable big time. But if they were to pay out everybody what it's worth market value, even if it was just like market value raw or a couple of grades lower or whatever, pay them out what they paid or what the market value is at the time of that PSA 10. I think you would see most of these cards start to come in and get decommissioned. But again, like you said, easier said than done, because is PSA and Beckett going to ready their $1 million wallets to start paying out these? I don't know, right? Like, and we don't know how deep this goes. And
true. Come on, grading companies, do the right thing.
Oh, man, I hope so.
Well, let's end off this segment with just a few examples of like the price difference between those graded authentic altered, which PSA does, and I think that kit does as well. But I'm going to use PSA here as an example, and I chose PSA 8 just because a lot of these nicely authentic altered cards might pass for a PSA 8. All right, so this is what the difference is. And Scotty B Cards actually had the 1954 Hank Aaron rookie card,
Right.
pretty iconic. His Hank Aaron authentic altered rookie card goes for about $1,400, $1,400. A PSA 8 of that card last sold for like about $43,000.
Insane.
That's the difference, right?
Insanity. That's what I'm saying.
So the temptation, I'm telling you, right, to try to pass it off as a non-alter card is there. The 1956 Mickey Mantle Topps, not his rookie, but the one where you see a face and then in the background is like an action shot. It's a very famous card. 1956 Mickey Mantle Topps. An authentic altered card goes for $570, and a PSA 8 version goes for $15,000.
Wow.
Right? And one more for you, for the Canadian fans out there. 1979 Wayne Gretzky O-Pee-Chee rookie card, authentic altered. Well, I'll go with the PSA 8 goes for $12,250. And the authentic altered last sold for $200.
Holy cow.
That's crazy. You know what's crazy? You know what's even crazier of that last card? And I'll tell you of all the cards, you don't even know if that PSA 8 is altered or not. So it's like that could be both altered cards, and that's the difference. And that's insanity to me, because more likely than true, especially in the 80s and 90s, this it's not, card trimming is not new. This has been in the hobby. It's just coming to light. Right? So that's why it's insanity.
You know what's funny?
It's literally insanity.
I heard this before, and I think podcasts like Jeremy Lee's Sports Card Live, like I think they would be able to verify, because I don't know the history behind it. But I had boxes of 1982 O-Pee-Chee way back in the day. My dad got me like a whole bunch of boxes, and that's why I have a couple of Wayne Gretzky's. Those cards apparently, because I look at, when I open those boxes, I don't know if you guys remember, but back in the day, O-Pee-Chee, especially like 84 and before that, the O-Pee-Chee cutters were brutal. It was like, it's like cutting sheets of cards with a butter knife. Like everything came out ridiculous, basically like shredded apart. And I think I opened 5 boxes, and probably every single one of them, you know, my Wayne Gretzky's that I've submitted were straight from packs, like from pack to sleeve into top loader when I was 12 years old. Kept it for 30 years. I submitted to PSA, and they got like a PSA 4, 3, 5, 2.
Oh, man.
These are straight out of packs, right? Like no damage. And then I see PSA 10s, and they have perfect edges, no fluff. And it's like, there's no way, because I open up 5 boxes and none of them are like that, right? And then I heard that most of the 82 and maybe 81 and a bunch of those O-Pee-Chee years, the PSA 10s actually come from sheets that people manually cut. So they get the full sheet, and they manually cut them into perfect squares, right? Which now it's like, I don't know. Like, does that mean those are real PSA 10s? Like, because they're not from the, I think most of them are not from the actual O-Pee-Chee cutters.
The packs.
They're from people buying the entire sheets and manually cutting them, right? And that's why they have perfect corners and perfect edges. And because I'm sitting there thinking like a PSA 10 Wayne Gretzky 82, and I'm like, how the heck does that have like mint condition edges and corners? Like I didn't see not one card that I pulled out of a pack that looked like that, right?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
I'm sure one of the
Crazy.
old head hockey guys can hopefully verify what I'm talking about. But that's something that I heard.
We'll try to get Jeremy Lee on the show. He might know the answer to that.
Yeah. But going back to the differences between sorry, go ahead, finish. Go
No,
ahead.
I was just saying Sports Card Radio would be a good guy, because he's been on this since before, you know, everybody talked about it, and he's been trying to, you know, voice his opinion about this, and, you know, rightfully so, he's getting the limelight now. So go check out his stuff. He talks you know, in depth about all this, and he's been doing it since, you know, 2019. You know, back in the day, 4 or 5 years ago. So
Yep. The hobby super sleuths.
yeah.
I don't know if you guys watch a YouTube channel. It's fairly new, but I think I showed it to you guys when the first episode came out. It was really looked really well produced. It's called Chasing Cardboard.
Okay.
And good timing.
Familiar.
Good timing. His latest video is called "We Destroyed a 52 Mickey Mantle," which is a bit of clickbait, but I don't want to spoiler alert for anybody. But basically, he gets a collection from an old buyer that had a whole bunch of cards laying around. One was a Mickey Mantle, submitted to PSA. They don't know the story behind it. I think I didn't see the previous episodes, but I think it was sitting in somebody's garage for like 80 years. And then they submit it, looks perfectly fine, off-centered, and it comes back authentic, altered from PSA. So they tend to disagree. So his next episode, because of, like we just talked about, the difference in value between an SGC1 and authentic PSA altered, is a big difference. So they decide to crack it open, and they're about to resubmit it to SGC. And then I think the next episode is going to be the result of that SGC submission. So it'll be interesting to watch. But
Chasing Cardboard, yeah.
On a side note, the way that he cracks open the slabs is like, oh man, you guys have to watch it. It's very hard to watch. Because they do this method where they take the crimper right into the middle of the top of the PSA slab. And what ends up
split it up?
Yeah, what ends up happening, it just shatters right down the middle.
Shatters,
but you have a good chance of like,
wow.
When that happens, you have a good chance of like the card ripping or bending. It's like, oh man, you're about to do that to a 52 Mantle. It's tough to watch. Just crack the corner, nip the corners, and then take a screwdriver. I don't know why they don't do that, but yeah, you guys have to see it. If you get, for those listening, Chasing Cardboard, they do a pretty good job on their episodes.
Cool. Yeah, I'll take a look for sure. All right, we'll see how this plays out. As usual with these things in the hobby, you never know. But I don't think at any point in the near future, trimming vintage sports cards will be okay. So we'll see how this certainly plays out. All right, let's go on to our next segment. It's a new one. It's called Worth the Risk. And this is a segment where I'm going to list some modern cards that sold recently for big bucks. And you just tell me if you think it's, quote, worth the risk in buying at that said price. All right? Okay, so I got 5 or 6. We'll see how we're doing on time. First one, 2023 Bowman Drew Jones Yellow Chrome, his first auto. The big chase of the 2023 Bowman hobby boxes. The yellow chrome is numbered to 75 and it's sold for $2,500.
No,
definitely
no, for 2 reasons.
Oh man.
No, for 2 reasons. Obviously, the hype. We talked about this last episode. Right. I think Drew Jones, he's going to be a pretty decent, prospect and player, exciting player plus defender. But I'm just saying, it's just, you got to perform now, and time is ticking. So there's one. Bowman's a hype right now, so there's the bounty. So this is why it's inflating the price a lot. And 2, it's a yellow. It's like you even talking about gold. You talk about the fake gold, the yellow, right? So it's like out of 75. And I know people like yellow. I'm not hating on yellow. It's a good parallel, but it's not for me, especially at $2,500.
Yeah.
You could extrapolate the data of previously Bowman Chrome yellows, and you'll see that it's going to be a downward trend from here on out. So I'm going to say no.
Solid points.
It stole the words out of my mouth. That's exactly what I'm thinking too. There's a definite no.
Yep. Let's go on to the next one because there's a definite no for me as well. Let's start with the easy ones, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you talked about gold. This is a gold shimmer. Okay. Of the 2020 Bowman Chrome Gold Shimmer of Anthony Volpe, his prospect auto. PSA 10. All right, this one's graded. The Drew Jones wasn't even graded. That was raw, 2,500. This Anthony Volpe Gold Shimmer, his first auto, PSA 10, sold for $3,742.
Anthony Volpe. Let me just see how I haven't checked up on Volpe. How is he doing? 221. He has almost a 1 WAR, so that means he's doing something right. Man, $3,700 for a PSA 10.
Gold Shimmer.
Gold
I
Shimmer.
don't think it's a bad price.
Wait, that's an
right?
auto? Gold Shimmer
It's an
auto?
auto.
yeah.
It's a gold shimmer auto.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, there's a harder one, huh?
Hang on. Let me just, John, you could go ahead. Let me just think about
I'll make it
this for a
easy.
second.
I can't. I'm gonna say no. I think Anthony Volpe, nothing to do with his skill level, but we talked about this before. This is like the LaMelo, Anthony Edwards first year hype, all of that stuff. The Wander Franco last year, all of that sort of hype buzz. J Rod, which is still, a lot of the hype still exists for J Rod. There's just too much hype around it, and I think, just not worth it. You could make an argument that Anthony Volpe is worth it, and it is a gold, and et cetera, et cetera. Price maybe
Gold
not
shimmer.
too bad, but I'm still not. I'm not okay if we think Wander Franco is still overpriced, then how could we say that Anthony Volpe is not, right? So it's an easy no for me.
For me, Hyung's still trying to ponder whether this is a good deal or not. If it was a true gold, I might consider it.
Right.
The gold shimmer, it's a Hobby Logic thing. We talked about this in previous episodes. It's still numbered to 50, but gold shimmer versus true gold, I don't think it's equal. Hobby Logic. So at the 3,700 price, and we talked about this before, is he going to be the next Jeter? I don't think so. So that's another thing to consider.
What
Although
if
he's
he
going to
is,
be a
though?
good player.
Yeah.
What if Drew Jones is the next generational player?
That's true. Then his yellow will still go down because nobody wants yellow.
The fake gold, yeah.
I'm okay. Here's my final answer. It's gonna be a no for me as well. Just because Anthony Volpe, I personally like Bobby Witt Jr. better than Anthony Volpe. I have always liked it. Volpe has the hype with being a New York Yankee and stuff like that. So I don't think it's a bad buy though. It could go either way. I think if Volpe goes off too, it could go, be a good investment, right? So I remember when Volpe was worth nothing and then it was worth everything and then it's worth nothing, not nothing, but it's come down a lot from where it was, right? So, and again, Volpe was also part of that, Jason Dominguez and Bobby Witt, chase as well. So he was probably number 3 out of that whole group, right? So I'm gonna say no. Final answer.
All right. Okay, let's see about this one. I feel like I know the answer to this, but Topps Dynasty, we always say that's very underrated. 2022 Topps Dynasty. I don't know if you saw the cards. They look amazing.
Amazing, yeah.
Right? The design looks amazing. His is it a rookie patch? I guess it isn't. But 2022 Topps Dynasty Wander Franco. Speaking of Wander Franco, his patch autograph 1/1 card sold for $5,000.
Wow. Okay.
Oh.
I'll answer this because I've actually been looking at Topps Dynasty a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of comps too. Because I'm working out a deal potentially on a Tatis a Dynasty as well, but you got to understand Dynasty doesn't have a history of selling well, especially for what it is. I think Topps Dynasty is one of the most underrated sets. I personally love it, but it doesn't get love right now. But I think there's huge opportunity with Topps Dynasty in general. And what was the price with the Franco? $5,000 for the 1/1.
Yes.
I think that's oh man. I think that's expensive, but because it's a 1/1, I don't think it's a bad price. Because if Wander does end up, doing well, I think there's a easy flip opportunity there. Because previous prices of Otani and stuff like that, I think they're a lot more than that. So that will give you a understanding of the type of potential it has. Because I think Otani, in terms of Topps Dynasty, would be the kind of like the staple of the potential. Right?
Sure.
Because it's relatively, there's Topps Dynasty doesn't have a rich history of any massive sales, right? And I know patch autos aren't popular in baseball compared to basketball and football. So, but I think there's long-term play in that for sure, because I do believe Topps Dynasty is such an underrated set in the hobby.
Yeah. Okay.
Before I get to my answer, and I'm probably in the minority in this. I'm not a fan of the 2022 design at all.
Really?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Refractor and Rainbow Foil, but Dynasty, for some reason, like when I think of Dynasty and Flawless and National Treasures, I love the whiteboard, like the white background, where the patch and the auto kind of pop out of the card, right? Not like with it being like rainbow foilish.
Yeah.
It just looks too busy for me. It's not. It doesn't look clean anymore. So
Fair.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. But anyways, I'm probably in the minority when I say that. But let's get to Wander Franco. I just started listening to the episode with Deep Value Investor that was on. I forget his name. My apologies. Brent. Yeah, I actually talked to him on IG, so I should have known his name. My fault, Brent. But he made some great points about like the going after some of the top cards and 1% and stuff like that. And I think this is a perfect example. Like if you're gonna spend upwards of $5,000 on a Wander Franco, and you feel like Wander Franco is starting to become a value buy or whatever, me personally, I'm gonna say no to the one of. It is a one of one, and I'm me, I'm very much on the train of like I think Dynasty is very undervalued, etc., etc. But with that money, I would probably try and attempt to target what Brent was saying about like the top 100 cards or the top 1,000 cards of Wander Franco. Like for example, like going after I don't know how much if it is around the same price, but like a Bowman First BGS 95 true blue refractor out of 150 auto for Wander Franco, like around $5,000. Like me personally, I'll probably try to start to target something like that rather than a one of one Dynasty or a super refractor of some other random set that's pretty expensive, etc., etc. So that's me taking his advice. I think I'm more on his opinion about this. I think it makes a lot of sense to do something like that instead. So I'm gonna say no.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna say no too. Just the price, it seems a bit too high, but I understand because it is a one of one. Maybe if it was a different player, we talked about Wander at the top of the show, and I'm just looking over some comps. It's hard to find comps right now because 2022 Topps Dynasty didn't come out too long ago. But like 2021 Topps Dynasty of Ronald Acuna, his one of one logo man patch auto sold for $5,000 last year. So if that's the comp, then Wander Franco looks like it's probably a little overpriced, and it probably will come down a bit. So I'm gonna say no, but it's a nice looking card. I don't know what you're talking about, John. 2022, it's fire, man. I think it's better than 2021.
Man, I don't like it for some reason. That don't look clean to me. Anyways.
All right. Everyone has their opinion. Okay, a couple more. 2018, and I chose this one because it's not his regular card. Shohei Ohtani's 2018 Allen and Ginter framed auto. It's like one of those, it's like a mini, but it's framed. BGS 9.5, 10, sold for $4,625.
Ooh. So I've been looking at Ohtani autos for the longest time, and they're so overpriced. And you need the good auto. So for instance, like 2018, 2019 are the good autos, right? Yeah. And obviously you're fighting for 2018, but you're gonna pay a premium. And I looked at that Allen Ginter. That's out of 25, right? You said.
I don't know if it's out of 25.
I think that one is out of 25. I don't think I believe that one sold was out of 25. Yeah. I don't think it's a bad buy, to be honest. I think it's a little high for Allen and Ginter, obviously, but because Shohei Ohtani autos are so difficult to find, I think long term, as long as Shohei's doing what he's doing, I think any 2018 Shohei auto is gonna be a very scarce memorabilia and a very big hobby chase, in years to come because it's so scarce, right? So I actually was looking at that Allen Ginter too. It's an awesome card, actually. The auto is awesome. Nice. The card itself is awesome. I don't mind it. It's a little high, like I said, but for me, someone who's been shopping for Ohtani autos and still can't pull the trigger, because if you're looking at any of his top cards, you're gonna overpay regardless for that auto. So you probably want to wait and not buy it right now So I think you still are buying at a peak in $4,000, especially for something like Allen and Ginter. But on the flip side, it is a 2018 Ohtani auto, and it's very, very difficult to find licensed in a respectable grade at a price. So I don't think it's a bad purchase.
Yep, and just to confirm, you are right. It's numbered to 25, and it's Allen and Ginter X. It has a silver marker auto.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a nasty card.
Do you guys know the story of why Shohei has so many different kinds of autos?
Well, he just got lazy, I think, in 2020.
But they look so different.
Or it's just
right? Like the good one is the one that kind of looks like a upside down.
That's like
triangle,
Acuna.
Right?
Yeah, you look at Acuna's auto in 2017, Bowman. It's beautiful. It's a masterpiece. And then it's just like he stopped caring. And then same with Ohtani. it's like it looks nothing like it. And that's why there's a demand for the 2018, 2019, right? He's like it's really nicely inscripted and
nicely. It looks like an upside down triangle. You know, his new one just looks kind of like a big giant C. I don't even know what that is.
Like a C or a circle or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. Yeah.
I'm not liking either. I don't know. I'm going to kind of go back to like the Wander Franco thing here. Like, it's a little bit, it is rookie auto. It is numbered a little bit more obscure. I think for me, I'm being a bit biased, but I personally am really getting onto the train of like real one autos, especially like the red. And I keep my eyes on it. Not that I'm like a serious buyer, but I just like to keep tabs on it. And like a BGS 9, BGS 8.5 red ink auto probably goes for around the same price, if not maybe a little bit less, like right around that 5,000 mark. And I would rather go for a lesser grade of a more well-known of his like a well-known auto of one of his rookie cards. That's me personally. And maybe you can make the argument that real one auto isn't one of the more well-known. I don't know. But me personally, I would rather
$10,000 though.
No, but like the lower grade ones, I think go for around $5,000.
Yeah.
So I'd rather go lower grade and go for like a red ink auto than something like this. Funny enough, do you guys like? I know in the Korean heritage, old school, like you signing your name in red is considered very, very bad luck. I don't know what it is. You know, if somebody can confirm if in Japanese if it's the same thing, but I know that it's really bad luck to sign your name in red. So I wonder how Shohei or any of these guys felt signing their name with red ink.
It's true.
How much are you paying me?
Yeah, maybe he doesn't care, but maybe his mom gave him a slap on the back of the head after you.
Are you talking about the Topps Heritage real one where he's just kind of standing with the ball in his hand?
I think there's two images, right?
He has two images. Okay. He has two red inks and two.
I think the one where he's holding the bat is the more expensive one. Is it? One of the two is more expensive than the other.
Okay, I don't know. The one where he's just holding the ball, sold March of 2023, so a couple months ago, for BGS 9.5, and it's numbered to 69, right? The red ink.
Yeah.
So for just under 14,000.
Whoa! But that's a 9.5.
So you're not. That's a BGS 9.5. Yeah. So you won't be able to afford that with the $4,500 budget that we're talking about. But anyway, I'm kind of with Hyung. Like I feel like with it's numbered. It's a Shohei 2018 auto. I agree with that point too. And the way Shohei's playing, the way he's kind of, the longer he plays and the longer he does what he does, like I think there's always going to be a market for his autograph cards, especially for 2018. And even if it's not one of the top brands, or you know what I mean? Like even though it's an Allen and Ginter X, with a nice auto, with a nice eye appeal of a card, I don't think that'll be a problem selling at a local show. Like I think we've kind of saw that a little bit at the Sport Card Expo. You know what I mean? Like people are looking for Shohei, and they're like, "I'll take whatever."
It's so
nice
tough.
autograph card.
I've been looking. You can't pull the trigger because everything's too expensive, and then you kind of get FOMO, and then you're like, "Damn, I need a Shohei auto."
All right, I got a question for you guys then.
Yeah.
The card that you guys are just talking about, the Allen and Ginter,
Ginter.
With that same money, would you rather? And we saw it on the Bowman High Rollers group, the guy selling the Onyx Otani Kanji for 4,900.
That was 2021 though, right?
Was it? But still, it's a Kanji right? Those are how many of those are in existence, right? Would you rather that or this? It's right around the same price.
I will say I just seen the Kanji Auto. I think I might be wrong, but I think it sold recently on auction. The exquisite Kanji Auto was like 40K.
Yeah, it was like I think 50,000. Maybe might have gone over 50,000.
Yeah, that was the exquisite. So our boy Andrew, I submitted that, that dented exquisite auto. It looks amazing in looks that, sick. The authentic Auto 10. But yeah, that card sold for 40K or whatever it is, 50K recently. So yeah, you have
51,600.
That's insane. That was PWCC.
Yeah, PWCC Premier Auction.
By the way, I saw a Kanji Auto on his Bowman Chrome, and really? I don't know if it's superimposed, but I saw it on somebody's like the best one of these like best cards in the hobby photographs, and it was there. It was like a Bowman Chrome. He was pitching, where he's like tipping over, and it was was like
that's big time card. Then
it was like 1 of 99, or like one of the earlier ones, and I think he signed it a Kanji. I don't know if it's real, but I saw it.
Damn,
interesting.
Anyways,
yeah.
I don't know. For me, I don't know I don't know anything about the Onyx company. Is that an Asian company? I have no idea, but I think I would rather the Kanji Auto, to be honest. It's just so desired and it's so rare that regardless of being rookie year, I thought that was a pretty good deal on the Bowman High Rollers, but
it wasn't graded?
Yeah, it was I think it was in a SG or CGC slab, like a 9 or something like that.
Oh yeah, we're talking about how that's in the wrong slab.
Right.
I would buy that,
it and immediately crack it out and go PSA.
Crack it and submit it to PSA. Yeah.
Damn, that's a hard one. That's a hard one.
And I know you probably go for the. You've been wanting the Kanji, right?
That's like a grail, but I think it's just out of my price range at this point, right? So. Right. I might just do it. I hate the Onyx look. I hate that as Onyx, but it's a Kanji Auto, yeah. So I might just do that.
Yes, I got Clark.
Yeah. All right, I got a couple more, but we'll save that for our next episode. Since we're kind of doing a prelude to a pick one, let's just get right into it. Our weekly segment we call Pick One. All right, Hyung, do you want to start things off as you normally do?
Sure thing. All right, let's talk a little bit about Otani since we're already on here because his overpriced cards that everybody wants. I want to pair him up with Mookie Betts because I feel like Mookie Betts is still somewhat undervalued in the hobby. So an example is his gold Bowman Chrome first auto from 2014. It last sold for 10.95K. And by no means am I saying this is a deal or cheap. By no means. But it is a gold of Mookie Betts. And I remember these things, you couldn't even sell them for like $3-4 grand at one point. It's a surprisingly a pot 41, which is crazy. A BGS 9.5, pot 41, numbered out of 50. That versus a 2018 Bowman Chrome, Shohei Ohtani, the pitching, Atomic Refractor BGS. That sold for $14,000. So it's basically the Mookie Betts Gold for $11K as an investment, or the Shohei Ohtani Bowman Chrome pitching auto that sold for $14K, which is going to net you out the better investment at the end of the day.
I can go first. It's easy for me.
I know what's coming.
Do you?
I feel like I do.
Because I'm in my head, I'm still going back and forth, but I'll tell you what I want as a PC, as a person, like as a collector. Like I want the Shohei, amazing card. But as an investment piece, I'm going with the gold Mookie. Like maybe it's after that interview with Brent, Deep Value Investor 1. Just knowing that, and also I saw the IG story by our hobby friend Scotty B Cards listing out the active players. What was it? The active players and their WAR. And Mike Trout and Mookie Betts are the only one right now that are on pace to hit a ridiculous number. You know what I mean? So, we talked about this before too, right? Mookie doesn't get the respect he deserves, or as much of the respect that he should probably get. And I think over time it's going to change, especially with the WAR stat over time. If he continues to play the way he does, and if you have a gold Bowman Chrome, talking about one of his better cards, I would include it within the top 100, 250 Mookie Betts cards. I think that has a better chance of increasing in value. So as an investment, I'm going for the Mookie Gold Refractor.
Yeah, I am.
Is that what you thought I was going to say? Or?
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought you were going to say. Because we know that out of the three of us, you're the Mookie guy. So I figured, okay, I know what's coming. But me personally, I have been on the hunt to get another Ohtani. I'm obviously waiting. It's a bit too inflated right now. But let's say even this card, let's say, mid-season lull, the Atomic drops down to 10K, so they're equal value. I'm not necessarily, I don't own anything Mookie, and I don't really necessarily plan on owning anything Mookie, but again, this is not my wheelhouse, $10,000, but somebody spending 10 grand, if I were to sort of recommend of the two what you get, outside of, buy what you love. I'm going to go with Mookie too. And this is a bit of Brent's deep value investors. Like I'm again, kind of take his advice to heart, attacking some of the rarest cards of the best players in baseball. I think the regular fan and the regular this is why Mookie cards don't move, is people aren't looking at WAR and people are undervaluing him as a what's soon to be an all-time legend, and everybody's on Shohei, rightfully so. Like Shohei might end up being the best player of all time, but we're talking one of Mookie's, this guy could go down as top 10, top 15, top 20 baseball player of all time, and one of his best and rarest cards is available for 10,000. I think this is the type of card that, with your money at 10,000, you could be pretty confident that this is the floor. Like, it's just going to continue to go up and up and up and up. And, there are big time heavy investors that are hardcore baseball guys, right? That would absolutely love this kind of card, right? So I think, if you're in that boat to spend $10,000 between these two cards, for me, it's also the Mookie.
All right.
Nice.
Two for Mookie.
I think long term, Mookie definitely is the right call.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you're looking for a short term opportunity, I think Ohtani actually might be not a bad candidate. 14K is a little steep for me. If they're 10K, I probably pick the Ohtani. But I think, like, for me, my strategy is long term rare. But the pot 41 does concern me a bit with the Mookie, but that just shows you how strong, Bowman Chrome was with BGS, back in, the mid 2010s to 2018, right? It was dominated. Nobody would submit prospect cards to PSA. It's very, very rare.
Is it numbered to 50?
The whole thing changed, right? It is numbered to 50, but it's a pot 41, which is insanity, right? And that's something to note. But I think Ohtani might have the volatility that, someone who's looking more of a short-term play of the way Ohtani's playing. But yeah, like for me, I'm a collector first, so I'm going to go with the Mookie as well. I just something with golds does it for me, and I think Ohtani, it's the right Ohtani card, I'll tell you that. But it's definitely overpriced. So I'm going to go Mookie.
Mookie sweep. All right. Cool. John?
All right, boys. I got a basketball one for you guys. Two nemesis. 1 year later, how the story has changed. We're going to go 2017 Luka. Is it 2017? What's his rookie card? 2018, sorry. 2018 Prism. Clark, you know this one very well. His PSA 10 silver. It has been dropping like a rock. Last sold $11.50 USD versus His arch nemesis, Devin Booker, PSA 10 silver, last sold for $1,200. So right around the same price. One guy was viewed as the big time villain. You know, he's not that dude. People were not on him at all. And Luka was the man. 1 year later, Luka's out of the playoffs, and people are clearly, tons of people are bailing on him, saying he's overpriced. And then you got Booker that might win a championship. Maybe not. They're down 2-0. But yeah, what do you guys think?
Yeah. Oh man, I hate to say this, but I'm gonna go with Booker. I just think the pop count is just too much of a factor to ignore. I think it's as simple as that.
Right. And to listeners, the Luka pop count is 2,200, and the Booker is just above 200.
Exactly, huge difference.
Yeah.
Obviously, I like Luka better as a player, and you know, just in terms of collecting basketball cards, Luka is the one I'm targeting all the time. But if we're comparing these two, they're both silver prisms. I think the shine's kind of come off since the hype, right? And you got to go. You can't ignore the pop count in this case. So I'm going with Devin Booker.
You know, that pop count always concerned me with Luka. That's something that, you know, won't retain value, especially if there's a mass exodus, you know, on Luka. And you know, if the pop count wasn't so high, I think the prices would be protected a lot more. But I think you're seeing market correction happening. You know, pop 200 versus 2,000 is the kicker, right? And for me, you know, 2015 silver prisms were super rare, you know, because, you know, back in the, you know, early, you know, 2012s to, you know, 2017, basically, silvers were real silvers. They were the actual hits, and then you have your golds, right? So it's not like you have a million parallels like you do nowadays. And, you know, yeah, you just have way too many options, right? And we were talking about this, you know, Luka's prices were not sustainable with those pop counts. It was a mass production card, even in the silvers, and it's not the same silver as the old school prisms. So I'm going to go Devin Booker just based on pop count. And, you know, I don't think it's a bad play to pick up Luka when it does hit, you know, bottom, because I think 2,000 pop is still reasonable for any relevant card, right? So I think there's going to be a buying opportunity with Luka. I just think at $1,200 a pop, if I'm going to spend $1,200, I'm going to pick the Booker Silver Prism in a heartbeat.
Yeah, you guys know how I feel about Luka. I still want in, and I'm actually glad
get it numbered though. Yeah,
I'm glad that people are bailing, because I can't wait to try and get a more rare prism or something. But with that being said, I think everybody has been witnessing what's been happening in the market, and you know, base has been on a pretty large free fall, and what was once known as flagship or quote unquote their main rookie almost no longer exists anymore. I think base is almost all but dead. Like, I think if you own a base, you should probably bail on it. And sadly, I think that's also now spilling into silvers and optic hollows and refractors and stuff like that, because they're just not numbered. There's a lot of them available. And what used to be the gold, you know, quote unquote gold standard prism silver, I think that's going to start to go away. I honestly, it's looking like the trend is kind of going that way, which is sad, because I mean, this is the silver PSA 10. Luka was kind of on its way to becoming kind of iconic. So I don't want to pick the Booker, but for $1,200, you know, you're protecting your money. You know, as much as I am a Luka fan, it would be a great PC. Nobody likes to see their PC card go from 2,000 to 1,000 down to 750 or whatever it's going to drop to. So for $1,200 to save your money, I think you have to go with the Devin Booker at 200 pop. You're gonna protect your money. So at the very minimum, yeah, it's gonna be the Booker. Sadly.
Yep.
Sorry, Clark.
Another sweep. I know. Yeah. Anyone want my silver prism?
Dude, I'm sitting on a bunch of Luka base PSA 10s, and it's like, wah, wah.
We gotta unload and then reinvest quickly. Yeah. All right, that's a good one. Okay, we'll end off this show with my pick one. So this is for, I know a lot of people say, not a lot, but some people do say that we always focus on the super high end. But so I chose one that's both under $500. All right. And it's back to baseball. On one side, I got 2020 Bowman Chrome, Jeremy Pena. His rookie auto PSA 10 sold for $355 recently. All right. Base auto. And the 2018, this guy's having a resurgence this year. And I was on him. If you remember, I was on him two and a half years ago, and then I bailed on him last year. And now, of course, as soon as I bail on him, he is having the career year, the banner year. So 2018, Jared Kelenic, his first Bowman Chrome draft auto. Also PSA 10, sold for $305. So they're both within the 300, 350 range. Which one are you going for?
So first off, I was the camp that said I'm off of Kelenic, and I still am not on Kelenic. Just to put it out there, he is still young, so that's what he has going for him. Yeah. So currently, he's tearing it up, right? Yes. He's hitting 309, 7 bombs. He has a 1.3 WAR this year. Mm-hmm. Okay, just throwing this out. With the 1.3 WAR, his career WAR now is negative 0.7. Okay? Just throwing it out there. So it was at one point a negative 2 WAR in 2 seasons. Okay? So that's something to kind of like, think. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Think out there. But he is still young, whereas Jeremy Pena is a little older, and Jeremy Pena isn't having a great season, I'd say. He's a lot of hype was based around him. He's 25, 26 years old, so it's a lot older. He has a 6 WAR. So I think Kelenic definitely has more time to kind of like pick it up. Even though Kelenic prices are insane compared to where they were. There's already a massive growth in Jared Kelenic right now because of the way he's playing this year. But for me, if I'm going to pick between the two, I'm probably going to go Kelenic in this case, just because, Pena concerns me. If he hits, 250, 260 with, 20 bombs, what's his prices look like, right? So, for me, Kelenic still has, he's raking right now and he's having a good season. So I think he could, there's some more room to grow if he continues it, but that's something to note. He is killing it in WAR, but he still has a negative career WAR.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah. So you guys, of the three of us, I'm probably the least knowledgeable on prospects and all of that stuff. So I'm going to be speaking from a very casual point of view for listeners that are kind of more on my end. Without knowing that much about either player, obviously we know that Kelenic had a lot of buzz 2 years ago, and Jeremy Pena's time to have buzz was last year. So even from a market standpoint, I would say that Kelenic is right now buzzing. Like the price, I'm assuming the prices have gone up, and whereas Pena's has simmered and probably gone down. So you would think, it would make sense that maybe Pena is a better value, but I'm going to come from the perspective of kind of what Hyung touched about. Without knowing too much about either player, but knowing some information, I think I would personally rather go for somebody that, because again, you kind of have to, like Brent was mentioning, like there is, when you study like human psychology, there's a lot of that in sports cards as well, right? So if it's a fourth round pick that all of a sudden starts buzzing, it takes a lot for people to continually believe that this person is going to become the next Mike Trout as a 4th round pick or a 7th round pick or a 12th round pick, right? Kind of like Fred VanVleet, like a journeyman that turned into an all-star. Still, I don't think he in his life will get the respect, even if he ends up being like a 12-time all-star because of his pedigree, right? Whereas somebody that was a first pick overall that kind of fell off, that never really had his chance, and then starts to develop and starts to kill it. I think the buzz and the pricing and all of that, the human psychology, people will easily jump on that and easily be confident that yes, he's arrived. Like this is the guy that we've been talking about, right? So with all that being said, Kelenic, younger, 1st round pick, he's got the pedigree, all of that stuff, brutal first 2 years, like absolutely horrendous,
right?
Which completely tanked anything that had to do with his value. But now some people, like seeing it, this is what we're talking about. This was the this is what people saw him as, like the first round pick. So I think, without knowing too much of the two, just the fact that he's younger and he's a former first round pick that has that pedigree, I think he has a chance for, if you're spending $300, you're going to throw some money at a low value pick, between two cards. He's the one that has a chance to 2x, 3x, and for this card to become a $700 card or $900 or $1,100 card. I think, the volatility is more there. So I'd rather go with, Jared Kelenic.
All right. It looks like for this week's pick one, it's a sweep all around. I'm going with Jared Kelenic. I don't think I have to say anything further because you pretty much covered all the bases between the two of you. I was just looking at Mike Trout's WAR in his first season, 2011, when he came in, and he was below average when he came into the league. It wasn't as bad as Kelenic. It was 0.7, right? So, sometimes players that young, and Mike Trout was 19 too at the time when he came in the first season. So Mike Trout was super young, but Kelenic was still young. He was 21, 22,
21,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So, there's adjustment taking place, and now he has 1.3 already. Who's to say he can't? This is a season where he starts to have really great positive WAR and just really contributes to the team. So I think he has the most potential to do that over Jeremy Pena, who I feel like is still riding that playoff high prices. You know what I mean? He was the MVP. He was doing really well, and we're kind of seeing that correction. So he's going the other way. I think Jared Kelenic's going the positive way. So that's why I'm choosing Kelenic. And Trout, in 2012, the second year after his poor season, he only had a 10.2 WAR in his second year when he was 20. So I'm not saying it's going to be the next Trout, but Kelenic, I'm hoping that by the end of the season he'll be back in the positives in terms of WAR, and then he's off to the races. All right, good show. We had a lot to talk about on different subjects. Hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, just like Mailman Matt, we always appreciate you guys giving us 5 stars and a nice review wherever you listen to your podcast. And we'll have a brand new episode for you next week. Talk to you then. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.